an alternating completion detection circuit using current sensors. Okay, please refer to the text, or I will be forwarding you the PDF file, the scanned PDF file copy. Please refer to this diagram once again from the text. It is not come here properly in this PDF. So here there are three important blocks. The first rectangular box contains static CMOS logic. Second one contains the current sensor. Third one contains minimum delay generator. Then we have two inputs A and B for the NOR gate, and we have output as done. And from the first rectangular box we have output as out. And one rectangular box which is placed vertical, we have input register through which inputs are being passed, and we have a signal called as start, which is acting as an arrow to the whole circuitry, and we have certain signal transition circuit. Okay, signal transition diagram just besides to this. So ideally logic should be implemented using non-redundant CMOS, that is static CMOS, and the completion signal circuitry should track data dependencies as shown in this figure, an approach that attempts to realize this principle. A current sensor is inserted in series with the combinational logic, and it monitors the current flowing through the circuit. The current sensor outputs a low value when no current flows through the logic. That means what? The logic is idle. So there is no operation which is happening in the circuit. That time current will not flow, and that is being detected by current sensor. And high value when the combination logic is switching. This signal effectively determines when the logic has completed its cycle. Note that this approach tracks data dependent computation times. If only the lower order bits of an adder switch, current will stop flowing once the lower order bits switch to the final value. If the input data vector does not provoke any change in the logic from one cycle to the next, no current is drawn from the supply for static CMOS logic. In this case, a delay element that tracks the minimum delay through the logic and current sensor is used for signal completion. The output of the current sensor and the minimum delay element are then combined. This approach is interesting but requires careful analog design, and we know that analog design is not that easy compared to the digital design, because so many issues will come in analog design. Ensuring reliability while keeping the overhead circuitry small is the main challenge. These concerns have kept the applicability of the approach very limited despite its obvious potential. So next we'll see self-timed signaling or the handshaking protocol. So as shown in this figure, besides the generation of a completion signal, a self-timed approach also requires a handshaking protocol to logically order the circuit events in order to avoid races and hazards. The functionality of the signaling or handshaking logic is illustrated in this figure. You can see, so there is a sending block and receiving block. Data has been sent from the sender block to the receiver block. A request will be generated, and once the receiver receives it, acknowledgement will be generated by the receiver. This is in general. Now I will explain in detail with respect to the timing diagrams, which we have shown on the right side of the slide. So we have a block diagram and the timing diagram, both are there. Okay, now the continuous lines at the clock signaling are the sender section, and dotted line indicates the receiver section. Okay, so as shown in this figure, we show the sender module transmitting data to a receiver. The sender places the data on the data bus. Please refer to the clock signals here. The sender places the data on the data bus at 1. You can just refer. There are three signals: request, acknowledge, and data. So where with respect to I am talking, this number 1 is with respect to data. Okay, 1, and produces an event on the request control signal by changing the polarity of the signal at 2. Okay, so data has been placed on the data bus and polarity of the request signal has been changed from high to low. That has been indicated by number 2. In some cases the request event is rising transition, at other times it is falling one. It can be active low or active high signal. Irrespective of that, the logic is going to remain the same. The protocol describes here does not distinguish between them. Upon receiving the request, the receiver accepts the data when possible and produces an event on the acknowledgement signal to indicate that the data have been accepted, and it is been shown as number 3. Acknowledgement signal has been once again from high to low transition has happened, indicating that it is started accepting the data. If the receiver is busy or its input buffer is full, no acknowledgement event is generated and the transmitter is stalled, or it has to wait until the receiver becomes available by, for instance, freeing space in the input buffer. Once the acknowledge event is produced, the transmitter goes ahead and produces the next data at word 1. The 4 events, data change, request, data accept, and acknowledge, proceed in a cyclic order. Successive cycles may take different amounts of time depending on the time it takes to produce or consume the data. The correct operation of the sender receiver system requires a strict ordering of the signaling events as indicated by the arrows in the previous slide in the clock transition diagram. Okay, imposing this order is the task of the handshaking logic, which in sense performs logic manipulations on events. An essential component of virtually any handshaking module is the Muller C element. Right, this Muller C element you can see here as shown in this figure. This is Muller C element. So there are two inputs to this element C, output is function f, and we also have a truth table. So this truth table, you can see if both inputs are 0, output is 0, both inputs are 1, output is 1, and it's going to retain the output as the previous. If any change in the inputs, you can see when the A is 0, B is 1, or A is 1, B is 0, it is going to retain its previous value. Okay, so an essential component of virtually any handshaking module is the Muller C element. This gate, whose schematic symbol and truth table are given in figure in this slide, performs an AND operation on events. The output of the C element is a copy of its input when both inputs are identical. When inputs differ, the output retains its previous value. Phrased in different way, events must occur at both inputs of a Muller C element for its output to change state. Right? Both the values has to change, then only the output will change, and to create an output event. As long as this does not happen, the output remains unchanged and no output event is generated. The implementation of C element is centered around a latch, and below in this slide, below this Muller, you can see there is a latch which should be the implementation of C element is centered around a latch, which should not be a surprise given the similarities in their truth table. Or latch also works in the same fashion. Whenever there are changes on both inputs, then only, right, when the both inputs are same, there will not be any change. If there are variation, then it's going to retain the previous value, right? So it represents a static and dynamic circuit resolution of the functions. Now, as shown in this figure, it shows how to use this component, that is Muller C element, to enforce the two-phase handshaking protocol. For example of the sender receiver example what we have seen, assume that there are sender logic block and receiver logic block, and we have a few signals like data ready, request, REQ is for request, DAT is for data ready, ACK is for acknowledgement, DAT, one more DAT which is connected to the receiver logic is data, the horizontal line, and the vertical line is with respect to data accepted. Okay, assume that request, acknowledge, data ready are initially 0. When the sender wants to transmit the next word, the data ready signal is set to 1, which triggers the C element because both its inputs are at 1 now, because data ready has been made 1. Then receiver logic, which has been connected to Muller circuit with the bubble, that means initially it is 0, means it also has become 1. Right, now request goes high because both the inputs are changing or become 1. That means request automatically, when both the inputs of Muller are 1, then output has to be 1. So request goes high. This is commonly denoted as request high. The sender now resides in the wait mode and control is passed to receiver. The C element is blocked and no new data are sent to the data bus. Request stays high as long as the transmitted data are not processed by the receiver. When this happens, the data accepted signal is raised. This can be the result of many different actions, possibly involving other C elements communicating with subsequent blocks. An acknowledgement issues which unblocks the C element and passes the control back to the sender. A data ready going low event, which might already have happened before acknowledgement, produces a request to go low, and the cycle is repeated once again. So as shown in this particular figure is the post-charge logic. An interesting form of self-timed logic is self-resetting CMOS circuit. This structure uses a control structure different from conventional self-timed pipeline. Instead of waiting for all the logic stages to complete their operation before transition to the reset stage, the idea is to precharge a logic block as soon as it is completes its operation. Since the precharge happens after the operation instead of before evaluation, it is often termed post-charge logic. A block diagram of the post-charge logic is shown. As can be seen from this block diagram, the precharging of L1 happens when its successor stage has completed and does not need its input anymore. It is possible to precharge a block based on completion of its own output, but care must be taken to ensure that stage that follows has properly evaluated and the input has become obsolete. It should be noted that, unlike with other logic styles, the signals are represented as pulses and are valid only for a limited duration. The pulse width must be shorter than the reset delay, or else there is a concentration between or else there is a contention between the precharge device and the evaluation switches. While this logic style offers potential speed advantages, special care must be taken to ensure correct timing. Also, circuitry that converts level signal to pulses and vice versa is required. An example of self-resetting logic is shown in this figure. Assume that all inputs are low and that initiate signal is initially precharged. If A goes high, initial INT will fall, causing out to go high. Right, so you can see the below block diagram with the 3 NMOS and 4 interconnected inverters self-resetting with 3 input OR. Right, assume that all inputs are low and the initiate signal INT is initially precharged. If A goes high, initiate will fall, causing out to go high. This causes the gate to precharge and the PMOS precharge device is active. The inputs must be in a reset state in order to avoid the contention. So the next we will be dealing with synchronizers and arbiters. Arbiter is nothing but a circuit to decide which of the two events occurred first. Synchronizer is an arbiter with a clock pi as one of the input. Problem: circuit has to make a decision in limited time. Which decision is not important? Caveat: it is impossible to ensure correct operation, but we can decrease the error probability at the expense of the delay. Okay, so in the next class we will be talking about the arbiters and synchronizers in detail. Thank you.